cause things to not necessarily work right. And then once again, you refine and make your system a little bit more refined. And you keep doing this process until you hone in on one specific way of doing it to where it gets to your goal consistently. And so why systems and procedures are important is because it allows you to then identify where these points are that are kind of messing stuff up, and so you learn how to adjust accordingly. And the goal is to keep refining and keep pushing until you get into the area where you've really got a good handle on what's going on. And if you notice, a lot of our systems, they start out really simple. Maybe it's just 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 steps. But then the more, if you think about our websites, the way we build our websites, Brandon's first system for his building websites fit on 1 page, start to finish, everything. And it was bullet points. And then we sat down, we wrote out every step, and it was about 4 pages. Now if we wrote out our whole thing, like with descriptive file, save as, it would probably fill up a book. Because the more refined you get, then the more steps you see. And then if there's a problem along the way, you can identify it, one specific step in the process, and fix that step, as opposed to being like, shit broke. And so the more steps you can get, the more refined you can get. And so there's that work in progress that we talked about before. So there's less work in progress between the 2 steps. Whereas here, there was lots of things that could go wrong between steps. Now, if something goes wrong, there's ways to prevent it from affecting everything down the road. So the goal then is to continually refine the processes and refine the procedures to where you're in a narrow channel that provides a great way that you can be adaptable and adjustable, but it's not going to affect everything down the road. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So what's one way that you guys have seen this play out besides websites?
QC.
Okay, how?
Started out, we looked at the website, made sure stuff was broken.
So that was the blanket, right?
That was the blanket.
So we took the blanket off, then what?
Then we put in a couple of steps and said, okay, we need to check it in, i.e. Firefox, previous versions, and a couple of steps.
Okay, so that was probably 1, 2, 3 virtually steps. Then what?
And we said, what are we looking for every single time we do this? And then we said, who's checking it? When did they check it? When did they check it on? And now we have a 7-page document checklist to go through our QC.
So now we're probably right now, in this area here, right? Which is that you think there's probably more refinement that can be done?
Definitely.
So we want to continue to improve that process and get it tightened up to where 0 boomerangs is a weekly occurrence. What else? Where's another way that you guys have seen it? Okay. In what way?
Well, when we started, we were documenting it on paper. I type out a report every week and give it to everyone and color code it. And then as we grew, we changed to a project management software and implemented processes with that. And consistently, we switched a couple project management processes. So just tweaking and repeating and finding a new way to make it better. That will hopefully produce a more solid result.
So what's a specific example in our project management systems that have improved the way that we do business?
Well, I guess more recently with Maven Link, we're allowed to have a client-facing system now, so we can communicate with the client and document all conversations in the software itself. So we're not forwarding emails and going back through trying to find things that we couldn't find. So it increases efficiency and allows everyone to be in the know of the project versus only a few people.
What's another way that the wavelength and the frequency has changed from work in progress and dates?
It's allowed the team to better track their time and see deadlines for us to internally set deadlines that are also client-facing, so it makes us stick to them. And again, improves efficiency and keeps everyone fully communicated and back to in the know of when to expect things and what to expect.
Right. So exactly what you're saying there. So now, before we'd say, we'll have your website done in 7 weeks. You're going to have design, you're going to have programming, and you're going to have content and go live. Whereas now we break it down into weekly, specific deadlines on when you're going to have first concept, first revision, and everything. So so now if we don't get approval when they are supposed to give it, then this just gets moved out, just gets bumped out a week, but it stays within the system as opposed to before. This would have just moved over and we would have just had to adjust. So that's a perfect example of the frequency of the touch points in the process that has allowed us to be more effective and more efficient.